But so welcome. This is a class specifically, this class is part of a series that I'm designing for Empowerment Project. So it's part of a module that is the self-care and collective care. And that's why it has a little bit of a weird title. I feel like it's quite an abstract idea that you would absorb in a yoga practice because so much of it is about releasing or letting go. However, the very focus of the module and the focus of this part of this practice is that unless you can support others self-care, and like unless everybody has self-care, it's kind of your self-care is kind of not so what's the word, effective, right? If we can't all, like on Empowerment Project, we really believe if we can't all be well, then not one of us can be well. And so we're really striving for that, which comes with the caveat that it maybe will always be an unachievable task because there is sickness and illness, but the way that the wellness industry and specifically the term self-care is promoted and marketed is not very equal, and so it's the disproportionate access to wellness that we want to work with, and that is the narrowing of that gap between who gets to be well. So with that, this is designed to absorb capacity. This class is designed to absorb capacity for yourself in order to hold wellness for others. And that comes with a term maybe well known to you, maybe not, called holding space. And if you don't have what it takes to, if you don't have that support, and it's reciprocal, right? So if you haven't looked after yourself, if you haven't done the things you know that leave you regulated and enable you to feel centered, then you're not going to be able to support somebody else doing that. So saying that, this class will also just be a very gentle movement-based practice with no pressure to go out and serve in a refugee camp immediately afterwards, or whatever, and that is one of the ideas about collective care. And that collective is really entirely up to you. It might be your immediate family in terms of your community. It might be your vocation. It might be a global thing. It might be the people on your street. It's very, very idiosyncratic to how that works for you and to what capacity you best serve it. And that's the last part of the module, just so you know. It goes like all the way through the whole this debate. And that is to work out how you best serve that collective. And not everybody is an activist. Not everybody can be a nurse. I'm saying that because I know there's nurses in the room and I want to honour the labour that takes. But anyway, let's begin. So making sure that you're in a comfortable. Everybody at home still okay? David, you're the only person I can see.
Yeah, I'm terrific. Yeah.
Yeah, looks like it. Okay. Fingers crossed. Okay. And actually, one of those things I always invite people to do is to take a comfortable seat. And maybe that means sitting back in the chair. Maybe that means not sitting. Maybe that is to bring your head to the floor. Whatever feels like a place where you can just come to stillness. And just as to begin with, what is that idea of absorb? And if that space or capacity in order to absorb? Is there anywhere in your body that feels like it might need particular attention? It might need more space than elsewhere? Well, is there anywhere that feels like it has less capacity? And even with such a loaded introduction, just taking time to see where that sits with you. And then I invite you to begin to feel your breath. Feeling the rise and fall of your lungs and your chest, and perhaps even your belly as you breathe in and out. And at this point, I'd like to remind you that there is no point in this class where I am expecting you to do more than feels right for your body. I like this idea that you are in control of the volume of your practice, of your sensations, of your needs, of your capacity. You know way better than I do whether something is right or wrong for your body. But just in case there's signs like rapid breathing or breathlessness or dizziness or hold your breath because you're straining or struggling so much. These are my experiences. Or perhaps even an increase in the unpleasant sensations or new unpleasant sensations. That's all a sign that perhaps coming back to this place of stillness, staying with us but pausing for a moment, even accepting that that is maybe enough for today. Go ahead. And if you're on a chair, make sure that you can now press your feet firmly to the floor. So you might find that sliding forward slightly gives you a little bit more weight into your feet. And it also helps to connect the sitting bones. And that's really a cue for everybody now to just feel where the parts of your body are connected to the earth. And is that the part of you that feels most connected to the earth? This is a question because it's not necessarily the bits of you that are touching the ground. That connect to this incredible global resource. And starting the awareness of this central channel that is the spine, this length that goes from the ground all the way to the crown of your head. And perhaps finding some correlation with your breath. And beginning as you next exhale to turn your head to one side. And as you inhale, turn your head back to center. And as you exhale, turn to the other side. And this isn't the full radius that you can turn. This is just to the point where you remain comfortable. So it's not like the deepest stretch. It doesn't have to be the deepest breath. If your breath moves or happens at a different rhythm to how you feel like you need to move, this is all okay. So beginning with a warm up from head to toe to just make sure that there's circulation and heat and movement in as much of the body as possible. And then pausing back in center. And as you next exhale, looking down or dropping your chin to your chest and inhaling and looking up. And exhaling and looking down. This is my suggestion. You may breathe in and out with every movement. You may have something else happening. And the next time you look up, this is my new favorite thing to do. As you inhale, look up. As you exhale, breathe out through your mouth and release your jaw. And then close your mouth. Take another breath in, and as you exhale, look down. I really like the release in the muscles of my neck and my jaw and my chest is radical in my body. And then one more time, looking up, exhaling out the mouth, inhaling through the nose, exhaling, looking down. And this time, keep your breath going, but imagine you could draw small circles with your nose or your head on the floor between your feet or whatever you can see as you look down between your knees. And just keeping that small to begin with, changing direction. And then going back the other way and exploring how much movement you need. So you might really start to explore the room as you take your head out. Going back the other way, starting small, just seeing it might not be the same on both sides. Yeah, and at any time you need to change position or adjust how you're sitting, first rule of this class is go ahead, do what feels right in your body, and then come back to center. And pause and just notice what you found as you oh, 3 people in the waiting room. Interesting. What you found in that first movement. So people that have just joined us. Oh my goodness.
It worked.
Welcome everybody. Sorry if you've been waiting for ages. We only just began. And then just coming into the shoulders and lifting the shoulders up rolling them round. So seated on the floor or in a chair, rolling them round and then changing direction. And then adding the elbows. So they come out, they lift, letting the hands be heavy. Like the elbows are making the circles now. So they're moving the shoulders and the elbows. Changing direction. And then bringing the hands in, and it might feel like a little bit of a swim or a movement of your choice, where you can feel there is rotation in the joints of the shoulders, the elbows, the wrists. Yeah, making it as elaborate as you like as you change direction. And then coming down all the way to the hands and breathing in and spreading the fingers and breathing out and closing them. In and out, coming back to the breath. Next time you close your hands, it's a gentle fist, so you're not clenching, but circle your hands around, like keeping the rest of your arms as still as you can. So the action is all in the wrist. And then changing direction. And then opening out the hands as you next inhale and seeing how that feels and if it feels different. So we're just going all the way. You might like get a little wiggly, changing direction. And then reaching down, bringing your hands to rest on your lap, leaning into the floor as you lean forwards. If you're seated, you'll find your weight comes more into your feet when seated on a chair, or in fact, if your legs are crossed. And then rounding as you exhale, draw your back towards the back of the room, the back of the chair, draw your belly button into your spine. So seated cat-cow, drop your chin to your chest around. And then as you perhaps slide your hands back towards your hips, arching the back, lifting the chin, dropping the shoulders, opening the front of the body. So this is the primary aim, is as you exhale, you round and you're opening up through the back of the body. Can you feel that stretch or lengthening all the way from head to tail? And then as you inhale, opening up the front of the body. And this movement might be small, it might be big, it might be flowing, it might be a couple of breaths in each way. And then as you next exhale and lean back, we're going to circle round to the left and forwards and back to the right and back. And this again might be a small movement that starts very much in your center. It might be a big exploration of all the parts of your lower back that need your love because you overdid it gardening this week or something. Changing direction. And now, as we move into the lower body, and my friends that joined us late in the beginning of the class, if you need to do anything with your upper body, please go ahead and find that space. There are some options. You can come to hands and knees. You can come to downward facing dog. You can stay seated in a chair. If you come to downward facing dog, you will be weight bearing on your hands more. So it's up to you. I'm going to do my very best to jump around and demonstrate all that I mean. But we're very much starting with just moving in the feet. So if you're sat in a chair, you're already able to start wiggling your toes. And if you're coming to hands and knees, then you are picking up your feet circling your ankles. If you're seated in a chair, you're lifting your toes and rolling around on your heels. So we're using things differently. If you are in downward facing dog, you might be rolling around your toes. So just make sure you go one way, focusing perhaps first your right foot. Whilst we do these twirlings, maybe you can notice your breath again, and it might be happening in coordination, it might be happening in a different way. And then on hands and knees, pressing the tops of your feet into the floor. If you're in downward facing dog, pressing your heels into the floor. If you're seated, you're going to point and flex in your feet. So moving into more linear action in the ankles. And this is taking us up to the knees. So now if you're seated, you're going to press out through one leg and you're going to bend the heel underneath. You're going to bend and straighten your leg. If your hands and knees, extend through one leg. And you can bring the heel in towards the buttock, or you can bring the knee under the chest. In fact, bring it under the chest because the buttock is our next step. And if you're in downward facing dog, you can bend and straighten one leg. And then change sides. Taking that extension. So you're just sliding, if you're seated, you're just sliding that foot backwards and forwards along the floor. And taking care to just work both knees. And then moving up towards the hips. Now I'm going to start to squeeze the heel towards the buttocks. So if you're in downward facing dog, that's picking your leg up and into the air and bending the knees. If you're seated, it's lifting. If you're on hands and knees, lifting the knee towards the buttock. You feel this in your thighs, your hamstrings. And if you're seated, yeah, you're squeezing the heel under the chair. Okay, and wherever you are now, come back to those circles. If you're in downward facing dog, this might be nicer on hands and knees. If you're seated, you're circling again. And then it might be nice to lift the hips to downward facing dog. As we windscreen wiper the knees from side to side, walk your feet together, bend your knees in one direction as the heels swing to the other. If you're seated, take your feet apart, just do a little swishing from side to side, coming onto tiptoes or onto heels to give yourself a bit more height. And then pause. Pause and tuck your toes under if you're on hands and knees. If you're seated, connect to your breath. You're going to walk your hands back to your knees and we're going to slowly roll up to standing if we're on the floor. And if we're seated, we're going to meet them up there in a minute. So letting yourself arrive in a standing or seated Tadasana, pressing through your feet, lifting through your spine. connecting to your breath. If that is a resource for you, feeling the ground beneath you, taking in the feeling that you have moved through your body head to toe, and noticing, has that changed how you feel in relationship to your capacity or the sensations in your body? And then inhale and reach up. Exhale and lower. And you're reaching up as comfortably as feels good. Inhaling, lifting the arms. Exhaling, lowering. And we're going to start to take this into what I officially named Surya Namaskara E for easy. So the next time you inhale, we're going to reach all the way as far as you feel comfortable to reach. And as you exhale, you're going to take your arms into cactus. Inhale here. Lift the chest. And then as you exhale, you're going to roll down through the spine to the knees, to the floor, bending the knees, finding wherever feels good. So taking care of yourself though. And one of the things is, if you have high blood pressure, heart or eye stuff, bringing your head below your heart is not going to be comfortable to you. And so meeting, like coming, or finding blocks beneath your hands. Also, if you feel tight at the back of your legs, this is going to be a nice resource. And then inhaling and lifting up halfway. Might be sliding your hands up your shins and lengthening the spine. Exhaling and releasing. Inhaling, reaching your arms forwards and all the way up. Exhaling, bringing your hands to your heart. So this is what I'm talking about when I mean easy. We're going to go on the breath as much as possible. Inhale, reach up. Exhale to cactus. Inhale, lift the chest. It's a gentle drawing of the shoulders underneath you. Exhale, fold forwards. Rolling down through the spine, whatever direction you want to. Inhaling, lifting up. Might be Ardha Uttanasana if you're standing. Exhale, folding. Sweep hands out wide or forwards and inhaling to come all the way up. Exhale, bring your palms together in front of your heart. Press your palms together. As you breathe in, feel your chest lift. As you breathe out, let your arms drop by your sides. Inhale, reach up. Let's do 2 more. Exhale to cactus. Inhale, lift the chest. Exhale, fold forwards. Sliding, rolling all the way down. Inhale, coming up to halfway lift. Looking forwards. Exhale. Inhale, reach up. Exhale, palms down to heart center. Inhale here. Exhale, release your arms. Last one. Inhale, reach up. Exhale, cactus. Inhale, lift the chest. Exhale, fold forward, soften the knees, find the earth, find your knees. Inhale, look forwards. Exhale, pause here. Take an extra breath this time, softening in the knees or supporting yourself where you need to. perhaps taking opposite elbow with opposite hand. And then when you're ready, if you're seated, come up to an upright position. If you're standing, step to, or walk your hands to the top of your mat, or step to the top of your mat. We're going to go into a low lunge. This is for the benefit of people on their mats, not on chairs. For people on a chair, that is going to mean spinning to one side. And now these chairs are kind of funny, Tanya, so you're going to want to take a block with you round to your side. This is one, the banes of my life is like the kind of chair you do chair yoga on. There's very specific things. So I'm just going to make sure that I've got connection with the earth underneath the sole of my foot, which, you know, goes without saying for everybody with their feet on the ground on mats. And yeah, so right knee, right foot forwards, just for the sake of, you know, being specific. And then if you're on a chair, you're going to just slide that left knee down towards the floor, sliding your foot back as far as feels good. Press through both feet, toes are tucked. Draw your legs towards each other and either stay holding onto the chair and reach one arm up or reach both arms up. And that goes as well. If you want to come up to the knee and then up to the sky with your fingers, that also works. And then exhale and bring your hands down. Now, mat-based people, you know what to do if you need a little bit more like heat in your practice. That's all I'm going to say. If you want to step back and move through some sort of vinyasa, that is completely up to you. I'm not teaching that today. We will switch to the second side. So people on the chair, you're just going to spin round, sliding your block or keeping a block. That's the benefits of having two blocks. And then switching, so your left foot is forwards and your right knee down, drawing into center, inhaling, reaching up. Coming down, switching legs, coming back to the first side, adding on a twist this time. So it's going to get, I've got to get another block. I'm going to be here all day. So inhaling and reaching up. Exhaling, taking your arms wide. Inhaling, taking your left hand forwards. And twisting towards the right. So left hand is reaching forwards. And feel free, if you've got knee stuff and you want to lift your back knee, you might find that that's more comfortable. You might find you have to work much harder. So yeah, I can barely demonstrate that because this chair is so curvy and uncomfortable. Okay, inhale, come, reach up. Exhale, change sides. Now, if your knee's lifted, you can be like pretty like resourceful and just turn to the back of your mat. This might be where you start to join. And then bring, so if your back knee is down, bring your hands down, change legs. If you're seated on a chair or your knee is lifted, you're spinning around to the other direction. As the knee comes down, inhale, reach up. Exhale, take your arms out. Inhale, reach your right hand forwards and your left hand back. Exhale, find there's a little bit of twist there. Back leg might be working. Inhale, come up. Now I'm going to invite everybody to bring your hands down, switch sides, come back to the first side again. This time, I invite you to lift your back knee. And then we can turn this into a little bit of a pulse. And the promise, this is as hard as it's going to get. Inhale, and I say that knowing that what is hard for me is different. Exhale, twisting, different for everybody. Inhale, reaching up. Exhale, open out, bring both feet to the floor, turn towards either taking your feet wide, bring your back heel down, that's it. Walk your toes in, bend your knees, come down into a moment in a goddess pose. So just maybe walking your feet a little closer, turning your toes out and your heels in. So Adriana, walk your feet a little closer towards each other so that you can sit a little deeper. Yeah. And then inhale, reach up. Exhale, bring your hands down through center. Inhale, reach up. Exhale, turn towards your back foot, your left knee. Lift your back heel, your right heel. Reach up. Exhale, come back the way you just came. So sitting down between your feet. Inhale, reaching up. Exhale, pressing down. Make space. Inhale, turn towards your right foot. Reach forwards. Reach up. Exhale, twist. Left hand forwards. Right hand back. Inhale, come up. Spin on your toes. Turn your left heel to the floor. Sink down between your heels. Release your hands. Inhale, reach up. Spin on your toes. Lift your right heel. Bend your left knee. Exhale, twist. Right hand forwards, left hand back. Inhale, this is the last moment, I promise. Come back to center. Exhale, press down. If you're seated, see what it feels like to walk your feet a bit wider. And then we're going to breathe out as you press your hands through the air. Inhale, gather. Exhale. Inhale, reach up. Exhale. This time as you reach up, straighten your legs. Exhale, bring your hands to center. If you're seated in a chair, let your arms rest on your lap. If you're standing, walk your feet towards each other. And bring yourself to the top of your mat. Everybody, let's do one more sun salutation. Inhale, reaching up. Exhale to cactus. Inhale, lift the chest. Exhale, fold forwards. As you meet the floor, if you're on a yoga mat, step back to hands and knees. If you're comfortable doing so, you might need a block as a support for your hips or your head. You're going to bring yourself to child's pose. If you're seated on a chair, you can bring your hands to the table or the surface in front of you. So you lean forward, and you might find you want to turn that around, and you can work with it. So if when you come into child's pose, take your knees wide, bring a block in front of you so you can bring your head down to rest on it. And just checking in. Again, Sarah, do you want this one? It's a bit, you right? Cool. And then see, can you now feel a sense that there's some expansion that has happened through this movement, that in releasing the joints in your body, in creating some heat in your muscles, even some gentle but deeper breathing is moving through the tensions and the stress, the emotions, the thoughts, the feelings, the words, the conversations, the layers of what it means to exist. And that is to say that this is a continuous practice as long as we exist. There is no quick fix, nor do we need fixing. We are looking for what makes us, or what we can do to make ourselves feel safe, make ourselves feel happy. And when we do that for ourselves, we create capacity and compassion for others. We create capacities for tolerance, for sharing, for giving, for supporting those others that need it. Just to say that even here, this pose does not work for everybody. So if you would like to feel more comfortable, that is to say, there is some degree of unpleasant sensation in this pose, you can begin to come to lying on your back and take your knees into your chest as an alternative. We must be here for a few more moments. But as and when you're ready, if you are in a floor-based version of child's pose, coming on to lie on your back, in due course, if you are in a seated pose, coming up to sitting. And I'm going to take that chair back. Thank you. And just before we come to stillness, just seeing what any last movements you would like to make. Yeah, we're going to go through the legs. So taking your right knee into your chest. And if that is holding your thigh or even supporting your foot on a block so that you've got a bit more movement, circle your ankle in your right foot. Okay. And go both directions. I always get the clicks at this point. And then circle your heel. So notice that action as you rotate your heel in space, that actually rotates your knee. So imagine you could flex your foot and then make a circle with your heel rather than a rotation in your ankle. Like you're going to draw a big circle with the heel of your foot. Yeah. Changing direction if you haven't already. And then taking your whole leg round in a circle. So it's a gentle circular action in the hip. And that might be keeping hold of your leg, stirring with your hand on your kneecap. That works really well for me. Gives me a little bit of control. And then changing direction. And then taking your knee in towards you and rounding like you were going to one day give it a kiss, or perhaps giving it a kiss. Yeah. Bringing your hands to the back of your thigh and pressing your thigh into your fingertips and lengthening your spine like you're trying to get away from your knee now. Like that is the last thing. Yeah. And if your instinct is to extend your leg to straight, go ahead and do that. And just with that leg as strong and straight as possible, point and flex the ankle. So just feeling how the pointing of the toe extends through the front of the leg and the flexing of the foot extends through the back of the leg. And bending your right knee again. Now, if you're seated, I invite you to cross your right foot over your left ankle. If you're on your back, you can just take your left hand to your right knee and come to a twist. So then bringing your knees together if you're seated. Inhale and reach up through your arms and take your left hand to your right knee. And we meet in a similar position to everybody else. So just coming into any twist that feels right, like you can play with the position of your legs if you're more comfortable with your bottom leg, your knee bent. And then just check what's going on with your right shoulder. Is it lifting a lot away from the floor? And then just untwisting. So letting your hand support your knee that's on the other side. So bring your left hand underneath your knee so that then you can steer yourself back to bring that shoulder down. Yeah, yeah. And then take your hand on the inside and take it over again, but so that you only go as far as feels good. So then you bring your breath into your twist. So as you exhale, pressing the right shoulder, the left shoulder into the floor, or rotating and drawing that right shoulder round towards the back of the chair. Inhaling, engaging your legs and coming back to center. Taking your left knee into your chest, reaching your right leg out to straight. Circling the toes. And starting just at the toes. So draw it like you could draw a circle with your big toe. And changing direction. I love your socks, Adriana. And then imagine you can draw a circle with your heel. So the heel is rotating in the knee joint. So it's a gentle circular action actually in the knee, even though you're moving your foot and changing direction. And these movements are as much or as little as feels right for you. And then you know where we're going, coming up and taking the whole leg round, stirring the thigh bone round in the hip socket. One way and the other. And then if you're seated in a chair, pause. First of all, taking your knee into your chest, curling inward like you're going to give your knee a kiss, and then bringing your hands to the back of your thigh and extending your leg to straight like your knee is trying to get away from you, trying to kiss it. And then as you exhale, point your toes. Inhale, flex. And like that breath goes all the way up the length of your left leg as you inhale, and releases through your toes as you exhale. And then again, taking it to a twist. So bending that knee, crossing the left foot over the right if you're seated, taking that left knee over with the right hand. And reaching your left arm out beside you or behind you if you're in a chair, and rolling that left shoulder down and into the ground, in towards the back of the chair. Inhale, lengthen from there. Exhale, twist over. Find that length down the side waist, side body. And when you're ready, inhaling, engage the legs and come back to center. Bend both knees. Options for everybody here. If you're seated, walk your feet as far apart as comfortably possible. And it might really help to be on the edge. So if you're on your back, we're working towards something like a happy baby, or a lengthening of the spine and an opening of the hips. So I'm just going to give you those words if you know what that is. If you don't, and you're seated, make sure your knees stay in line with your ankles. So if your feet are really wide, you can see, or more wide than feels comfortable, start with holding on to the backs of your thighs. Yeah. Yeah, and then you're going to hinge at the hips, drawing, if you're on your back, drawing your knees to the outside edges of your armpits. If you're on a chair, you're going to come down to resting on your elbows. And then holding on to the front of your shins. So Adriana, like that, yeah. And then playing with lengthening in the spine and drawing the knees down towards the armpits if you are on your back. If you're seated in a chair, you may find you get to a place where this is as far as you go. And once you're there, you breathe into the back of your body. What we're looking for is length to the spine and opening to the hips. Sending your breath down to the core of your pelvis, perhaps finding a little deeper hinging at the hips as you breathe. Flex your feet and press your feet to the ceiling. So your feet are as wide as your knees, or press your feet into the floor and keep your knees as wide as your feet. We're in the same position. We're just working with gravity in slightly different ways. I'm taking 2 more breaths here. If you're in a chair, walking your hands up to your thighs and inhaling. If you're on your back, releasing your feet to the floor. And as you make your way up to a seated position in your chair, and actually this applies to everybody now. If you would like to finish in a seated position, you may. This is me giving you permission to do whatever you want, obviously. You may find you want to stay on your back and rest. But either way, we're going to spend the next few moments in stillness, and there may be movements left that you need to make. Yeah, and Tanya, if you want to come down, yeah, you could also rest your feet on the seat of the chair. That might be comfortable to you, but it's up to you. Yeah, okay. So taking this last few moments to just make sure you are in a comfortable position. This could be on your back. This could be with your knees bent. And in fact, I invite you all to cross your ankles and fold your arms across your body. Yeah. So just feeling these last few moments, just as long as it's comfortable to do so. Feeling this vessel that is your human form, and just giving yourself this permission to rest, this permission to gather your reserves. That was the last thing I wrote down when I was thinking about what this class is. This is a gathering of your reserves. This is ensuring your cup has something in it. And that comes from this, I guess it's a meme that you cannot pour from an empty cup. So we are absorbing to fill our cup. And in a moment, take a deep breath in and take your arms apart and uncross your legs, and then cross your legs in the opposite way and cross your arms in the opposite way. And if you are comfortable like this, you can stay in this position. We are trusting ourselves to find the ways that regulate us, that ensure we have full capacity for whatever it is our purpose in life. However, it is needed that we share. And then releasing your arms and legs if you wish to do so, finding final spot in which to rest. Begin to bring your awareness back to your breath. Notice between your inhalation and your exhalation, you absorb. Bring some gentle movement back to your fingers and your toes. And start to reach for your arms and legs and moving your body any way you like to begin to revive yourself. And bending your knees if you're on your back, bring them into your chest. Rolling onto one side, perhaps. If you're seated, circling round slightly, rocking in legs from side to side, making your way up to an upright position. And pausing here, taking your time, bringing one hand to your heart, one hand to your lower belly. To offer gratitude to these great traditions of movement and meditation and yoga, asana and pranayama, and the wisdom that has been shared between teacher and student for centuries and centuries. And the journey and the labor that was required in order for us to share these practices this evening. And to each other in our shared movement and breath, and the real privilege that it is to be together in this moment, in the ether or in the actual space. And finally, to yourself, an honoring of this miracle, magnificent form that is your human body, that is your body, mind, and your breath, and your spirit, and your light. And thank each of you for your practice this evening. And I wish you a wonderful rest of tonight and a beautiful week. And yeah, thank you so much.